Have you ever wondered how some people leave the military just broke as hell and others leave the military completely set for life, whether that's because of real estate they bought or skills they learned that allow them to become a CEO, founder, entrepreneur, or whatever? And it's not luck, which is what some people want you to believe. It's work and it's mindset, and there's a way to do this. Today, I'm going to break down the 5 dumbest financial mistakes that I see service members make and how to avoid them like a bad barracks inspection. Okay, the very first mistake, I labeled it as living like you're rich, even though you're not. But really what this boils down to is, look, when a lot of people join the military, it's their first real salary job. And on top of that, it's got great benefits, which means your room and board is paid for, whether you're living in the barracks or you have BAH to live elsewhere. Your food is paid for, whether that's through comrades or you're eating at the chow hall. Your medical's covered, your dental's covered, you've got life insurance, like all your financial basic needs are covered. And for the first time in your life, you're getting a steady paycheck, which means that since you have nothing else to spend it on but yourself, it's very easy to say, hey, I've got $1,500 coming in every other week. I have nothing else to do with it. So $1,500 can go towards a car, some furniture, an Xbox, whatever, like all these things, a lot of which are recurring expenses. Well, I can go eat out. I can go drinking with my buds. I can do whatever. And so you live at the edge of that $1,500 because it's actually pretty easy to go, I don't need it because I've got all the benefits. So even if I run out a little bit early, I just go to the chow hall and I'll just walk to work, because most of your barracks is right around the corner, and I will or bum a ride with a friend or whatever, and I'll be fine. And because you have that safety net, it allows you to go a little overboard on your expenses. And I've been there. I mean, I was in Okinawa, Japan for my first duty station. In that 2 years, I also went to Afghanistan, which meant I had a combat deployment with combat, tax exemption pay, as well as the cost of living allowance, COLA, in Japan. And I had basically nothing to show for it after that first 2 years because I blew all my money on tattoos, a Harley, alcohol, trying to land dates, whatever, you name it, right? All the dumb stuff. A rifle that is a really great rifle, but the number of times I've actually been able to take it 1,000 yards plus is like 3 times in the last 15 years I've owned that rifle. So just dumb expenses, right? On top of that, I also think that there's this weird conundrum, especially for infantry guys or people who are constantly moving, where this might not be so much right now, but when I first joined in 2008 and we were still in Iraq and Afghanistan, I kind of felt like there was this it's almost as if I might die tomorrow, I might deploy, whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't need to prepare for the financial long term, because what if I deploy in 3 weeks and then what if I don't come back? So let's just go have fun. Let's ball. We ball, whatever. And I get it. Again, I've been there. I've done that. I bought a truck, a rifle, and some tattoos post Afghanistan, and I have just the rifle, nothing else to show for it at this point. Oh, and I bought the Harley, but that's also gone. And so I get it. Been there, done that. But living this way is setting yourself up for failure, which is why you should invest in yourself or pay yourself first. And the very first way you should do that is you should set up a thrift savings plan and put 10% or whatever. And I've got a bunch of videos on your TSP, so I'm not going to go way down that rabbit hole, but that's one way you can pull a little bit off the top to invest in your retirement and still live off whatever's left over and have a good time. Also, you should budget just a couple $100 a month that you don't actually have to use and just save it. And then you can invest it and learn how to invest and all that, which, shameless plug, if you click this little QR code up here, you can download a free copy of my book. It'll also be down in the description. And you can go through that, and it's all the financial things I wish I'd known when I first joined the military. And if you just do a few of those easy little tweaks up front, then you can blow the rest of your paycheck, and you're still setting yourself up for success simultaneously. All right, the very next one here, you probably all saw this coming, is the damn car. We joke about service members and their Mustangs, Chargers, Challengers at 20+% interest. I've seen it firsthand when I was a command financial specialist. The highest I think I ever saw was 26% interest on a car. That was a car this person didn't need their barracks was here and their freaking office was here, and it was a 3-second walk across the street. And so they could have just not had a vehicle in Hawaii, but instead they went and bought a $60,000 vehicle on 20-something% interest. They were underwater almost immediately. And that just dramatically increases the likelihood of you not becoming financial freedom or not achieving financial freedom, right? If you have this high overhead on a depreciating asset that you're underwater on, it really, really, really hurts your ability to set yourself up for success long term. And So I was lucky when I got to Okinawa, Japan, you weren't allowed to have a car until you were a corporal or a sergeant, you passed some tests and whatever. And so I physically could not have bought a vehicle there if I wanted to, because I probably would have. I've always been a car nut. Living in Japan with like a right-hand drive, a GTR or a Supra would have been pretty sick. But luckily, I couldn't do that. And since I couldn't do that, I was forced to either use my Lamborghinis and walk around, or just mooch rides, or just call a freaking taxi or an Uber, Hancho, as they're called in Japan, in order to make ends meet and get where I wanted to go, which ultimately saved me a ton of money on car insurance, gas, car payment, and all those other things, and probably the fact that I would have bought a car I didn't need, overpriced, and then I would have been stuck with it. And when you leave Japan, you kind of just sell it dirt cheap because it's really hard to get a car back into the States. Here's the deal. That freaking car dealership, they don't love you. They love your leave and earnings statement. They just smell money when you walk in because you're an easy approval. You probably haven't destroyed your credit yet. The car might destroy your credit, but they can get you into a vehicle. They know you want something fun and fast and whatever. They see dollar signs and they're going to take advantage of you. So again, I've got a couple videos on how to buy a car. The long short, I would recommend, between 5 and 10 year old, decent mileage, well-maintained car, because it's already lost half its value. So now instead of depreciating like this, it'll depreciate slowly while you're paying it off. So you might not end up underwater. And there are still some really cool cars out there, 5, 10 years old, 20 years old, right? You can go get a 2005 Honda S2000. If it's got low mileage, that thing will be a hell of a good time to drive and still cost you less than a brand new Mustang. And if you're like, oh, I don't do tuner, I do muscle, blah, blah, blah. Look, man, I get it. I had a Honda S2000. I turbocharged it. I sold it when I bought my first duplex. I then rolled that money into another property, another property, another property, and another property. And eventually, 2 months ago, I bought a 2025 Corvette Z06, the C8 convertible, all the bells and whistles, 670 horsepower, revs to 8,600 RPMs, highest powered production V8 and a naturally aspirated V8 on the market right now. And it's freaking amazing to drive. They're both great. Also, I run a 7-figure business now. So, and it's not to brag. I'm just saying, if you delay the gratification a little bit, you buy a crap car or no car, you save all that money now and you invest in yourself, 5, 10 years down the road, you can have a much nicer ride and it won't even stress you out at all financially, which is the way to play the cards. So you don't need a car right now. You definitely don't need a new car right now. So go watch my video if you're going to buy a car on how to buy a used car and buy it the right way. Don't get that crazy interest rate. Work on your credit first. Have good finances. Talk to other banks. Don't use the dealership financing, all the things. But if you have to buy a vehicle, which you probably don't, but if you have to buy a vehicle, make a good decision and delay the fancy car till later in life when you can buy a much nicer car and it won't hurt your financial position. All right, number 3 here is not using your TSP. I touched on this briefly. If you read my book, this is the first or second chapter. This is the first meat and potatoes chapter in a chronological thing because you can set your TSP up right away. And you should, bare minimum, you should be getting the matching contribution. So you should put 5% and get 5%. You should put it in the Roth, most likely, depending on your taxes. That's not financial advice. Do your own homework. But depending on your tax position, most service members, Roth is the right move. And you get that matching contribution, which is an instant guaranteed 100% return on your initial. You put $100 in, the government gives you $100. Now you have $200 day one guaranteed. You're not going to beat that return anywhere. I know that crypto sounds sexy and day trading sounds sexy and all these flashy get rich quick things sound sexy. Couple of things, food for thought. They don't talk about the taxes they pay on short-term capital gains tax. They don't usually talk about their losses. They skew the data because they're usually trying to sell something if they're online. I know a couple of people who actually succeed at day trading, crypto, the things that are, the get rich quick. And every one of them who does it well, it's a very small piece of their portfolio because the majority of their wealth is in solid assets like real estate, index funds like total stock market index, a business that puts off cash for them or whatever. And so this volatile asset class is not going to risk their livelihood. It's just a little bit of potential upside. And those are the guys who play it right. So don't get sucked into the get rich quick fancy guru by the guy who rented a Lamborghini and an Airbnb to look cool. Play the smart game, right? Index funds, real estate, house hacking with your VA loan. Your TSP absolutely should be the very first piece of that puzzle that you're putting together because there are things you can do with that later and it sets yourself up for retirement down the road, which means you can make a little bit more risky decisions up front and still be taken care of. Number 4 here, I got to say it, marrying the stripper. And really, it doesn't have to be the stripper, just marrying too fast. rushing into it because, there's this whole weird thing where people get out of boot camp and immediately they get married. The first person that falls for them, maybe it's like the first time they've ever felt sexy and comfortable in their own skin, and they're wearing a uniform and they're in shape and life's great. They're on like cloud nine. So they meet this person and things go along well and they're like, boom, wham, bam, thank you, man, we're married. Don't rush into it. As a guy who's been divorced, I'll tell you, divorce was the most expensive financial decision I ever made. And I thought, like, if you read my book, you'll see I wrote a whole chapter about picking the right spouse. I took my time. I thought I did the right thing. It still went nuts on me. And it is what it is. That's a whole conversation for another time. The point of this is you've got to treat marriage like it's a vetting process. You have got to treat dating as a vetting process. You're not looking for all the things that are great that make you feel good. You're looking for all the potential things that are red flags that you're missing because your like blinders are on because you're in love, right? Don't marry the stripper. Don't marry the girl who was married to a service member and now has 4 kids that's like 10 years older than you and just loves you. Like, try to be as objective as possible. A guy I look up to, Patrick Bet-David, recommended this book called 110 Questions to Ask Before You Get Married. I'm currently working through that with a girlfriend. And I'm answering all the questions and she got her own copy. She's answering all, and we are trying to make sure that our values are aligned and everything else early in the dating process, as well as meeting each other's friends and then basically telling our friends like, hey, look for red flags, like check this out, hunt this out. Like, what am I missing here? Because once you get far into that and your feelings are there, it's hard to separate things and it's complicated. But like marrying the right person will set you up for success for the rest of your life, right? Like this is a huge decision because if you do it right, that supportive person who makes your house a home and all those things can absolutely change the trajectory of your life for the better. If you do it wrong, it will wreck you. Financially, sucks. Mentally, sucks. Like, my business did not grow the last 2 years of our marriage. I mean, it did, but like barely. And then when I got divorced and I moved on and I like got my head right, things are like 3x, 4x, 5x, 10x, going crazy. And I'm just telling you guys that to say that like you need to play that card slow. You need to do your homework. And I know your emotions are involved. Easier said than done. Have third parties, neutral third parties that you trust to give you genuine feedback and aren't just going to be echo chambers. Give you feedback, right? Talk to the chaplain. Go to therapy before the marriage. Like, do all the things. Don't get married for BAH. It's not worth it. It'll cost you more money than you ever make with BAH if and when that falls apart. You don't want 2 LESs in a dream, like 2 service members, right? You don't want 2 LESs into a divorce and a destroyed credit score and a bankruptcy. Like, none of that's worth it. And yeah, you definitely don't want to play the like, oh, she loved me, and then realize, oh, she really just loved my TRICARE game. Like, not a fun game. And I see it. So just make sure you're vetting. Number 5 here is not using your VA loan early enough or properly. And I could go on and on and on about this. I've got a whole playlist on the VA loan that I'll have my video editor linked to, as well as if you scan this QR code, we can make introductions to an agent or a lender in your area that knows how to do all this, because you just don't want to work with someone who is licensed and doesn't actually specialize in it. Because just having your license means legally you can help people buy houses with a VA loan, whether you're an agent or a lender. It doesn't actually mean you know anything about the product unless you've gone and read the VA guidelines and you've done these loans a few times, because the VA loan is way different, honestly, way better than any other product out there. And so just having a generic license doesn't mean you know how to use it, and it will cost you money if that person doesn't know what they're doing, right? There's a lot of weird things with the VA loan that are designed to save you money, make it a better process, better interest rates, all the things, seller credits, whatever. And if they don't know how to navigate that, it's going to cost you money. So make sure you know who you're working with. Again, you can scan this QR code if you want a recommendation from someone in our network. They're not on my team. They're just people in my network that I know. Most of them are friends. A lot of them are in the War Room Mastermind that we run. Like, they're good people. And you should use it to house hack. That's my single favorite way to do it. You buy a duplex, you buy a triplex, you buy a fourplex, you live in one unit, you rent the rest out, and you live for free in the house. And then you save all the money you would have been spending on rent into an emergency fund and other investments and paying for investing in yourself and like learning things to just take all of that money that would have gone to rent and been lost and change the trajectory of your future. And so if you're watching this, we host a free webinar. I will drop a link in the description, but if you just go to my website, from militarymillionaire.com/register, we host a free webinar every Tuesday. You can go check it out. I'll teach you everything you need to know about the VA loan in like 60 minutes, right? It'll put you in a spot where you know enough to be really dangerous with an agent or lender and correct them if they're wrong or call them out on things, and just it'll help you get to that spot where you're confident using the product and I'll show you the math behind living for free and how fast that can change your life. I've now done it 3 times. I currently live for free in this house, and it is the single best thing that I think you can do starting out in real estate. The VA loan is incredibly powerful, and it allows you to buy a house earlier than you would if you had to put 20% down on a property. That's a lot of money. And so it provides a lot of really great benefits. There's a lot of misinformation out there though, so please do your homework, whether it's reading my book, coming to my webinar, whatever. Come use some of our free resources. You can just dig through my VA loan playlist and just learn about the product, because it will change your life for the better if you use it correctly and you use it early enough. All right, a couple of other just bonus points that I want to throw out there. Deployment, right? You go on deployment, you get all this tax-exempt pay. You can put a lot more money into your thrift savings plan. You can use the SDP and get a guaranteed 10% return. Both great options. Don't just come back from deployment and blow your money on dumb shit. Like, don't buy things that have recurring expenses. Don't blow your load on like a vehicle if you don't have to. Save and invest some of that money while you're gone, because putting tax-exempt money into a tax-exempt plan is a huge win for you long-term. Avoiding taxes will really set you up for success. And I don't mean like tax evasion. I mean like legally using your tax-exempt combat pay to invest in a Roth where you would have paid the money up front in taxes, so it's not taxed on the front end and it won't be taxed on the back end. Winning. Not transferring your GI Bill early is another bonus. So the moment you can transfer your GI Bill in a reenlistment, do it. Here's the trick. Transfer 1% of your GI Bill to everyone you think you want to give a piece to. You can always tweak the percentages later, but you have to transfer it during a reenlistment. And what happens, this is what happened to me, my career planner, career jammer, as we call him in the Marine Corps, love you guys, career planner came up and was like, hey, do you want to transfer your GI Bill? You can do it later. You don't have to do it right now. And I was like, I'll just do it later. He should have talked me through transferring 1% at that point in time, because in order to transfer it later, it has to be during a 4-year reenlistment. So that's how they get you for this like re-up, right? They're like, oh, you have to do another 4 years to actually be able to transfer that, which is fine if you're going to continue all the way through, but I didn't. And so because I said no at that point and didn't know that you could just transfer 1% and then you can always change the allocations once you've unlocked that person being able to transfer, to receive your transfer benefits. Then when I left the military 5 years later, 4 years later, whatever it was, I was unable to transfer my GI Bill. And so I now have a full GI Bill, plus I got a college kicker, which means an extra like 50 grand, which is something they did way back when as a perk, that I have to use or it goes away. I can't give it to my kid. Now, luckily, unluckily, whatever, however you want to call it, I got 100% permanent total disability, which means that my kid will get Chapter 35 grants to help pay for school, which is like 50 grand, which is great, but it's not the same as a GI Bill. So if and when you're coming up on a reenlistment, make sure you transfer 1% to every person you think you might want to give the GI Bill to. You can always pull it back, and you can always change it to 20% or 30% or 100% or whatever. But if you don't do it then, you're going to have to wait till your next reenlistment, and you'll have to do another 4 years to do it. And that's not a hole you want to be keyholed into if you don't have to. Another bonus one is just relying on that military pension. Like, don't gut out the 20 years if you don't have to. Now, the military pension is great. It is. It's a wonderful bonus. I've got a couple friends who have disability plus retirement pension. They don't ever have to work again. And one of them is building a business, and he's able to really just run the business however he wants because he's set up financially. He doesn't have to be working. That's a great position to be in. But you don't want to put yourself in a position where you never care about working on your finances, and then you're stuck hoping for that pension, even if you decide or realize that you just don't enjoy the military anymore. That is not a spot you want to be in. So don't bank on the pension. Bank on yourself, and then the pension's a perk if you make it to 20, 30 years. Oh, and God forbid, this one. Oh, bonus. Don't wait till your ETS or EAS or end of service to start figuring out your money. The number of service members I like coached through budgeting on their way out of the military and got to watch their eyes light up, and not in a good way, when they realized how much all of their benefits were worth and how much money they would actually need to make out of the military, that they weren't making it and they were going to struggle a lot that first year or two out of the service, is huge. Also, you should focus on building out your identity and your purpose, who you are outside of the military and what your purpose is going forward, so that you don't have such an identity crisis and a loss of purpose feeling when you transition out of the military, because those are both very painful things to go through. So start working on who you are outside of the military. Start looking for like purposes and hobbies and things that you enjoy again outside of the military. And then start budgeting and planning for exit, if that's your plan, long before you get there. Don't just gamble on it. All right, so if you got something out of this, go down to the link in the description. We've got a school community where we're going to be doing a 5-day challenge to help get you started on this journey. It's $20. You hop in, you learn some great stuff. You are absolutely welcome to join that. I'll drop a QR code here. We'd love to have you. Also, make sure you download, and again, another QR code. I'll have my video editor put all these here. Another QR code. Download a copy of my free book. You can buy it on Amazon or Audible if you want to, but you can just download the PDF for free. Read that sucker. It's everything I wish I'd known when I first joined the military. And then if you're watching this and you're further along in life, you already own a couple properties, and you're like dead set on being really serious about achieving financial freedom, building a business, whatever, and you really want to be around a tight-knit military investor community, I'll drop a QR code down here on the bottom for the War Room Mastermind. It's our higher level community. We've got 720 plus service members and vets in there that are just crushing it. So again, that's not for newbies. I'm not trying to upsell you on stuff, but if you feel like you're there or you want to be there, that's a great resource. We'd love to have you in the free community. We've got Facebook, all this stuff. Just connect everywhere and make sure you're subscribed. Love you guys. Have a great day.